the fourth section is all about building your writing system and using our this editor method. So what do I mean when I'm talking about a writing or a productivity system for your writing? So when we talk about a writing system, we're talking about the habits and behaviors and routines that you develop to help you to sit down and do the work. And a lot of the kind of they include a lot of the tips that Beck just talked about then. They're involving how you use rewards and how you schedule your time and how you use accountability systems. And sometimes these systems can be very complicated, but sometimes they can be very, very simple. Sometimes we find that writers just do one thing every time that helps them put the words on the page. So thinking about and going back to our large scale study again, we asked people, so just let me move myself down a bit. We asked people whether they consider, I think in your survey as well, we also asked this question as well. Would you consider that you had some kind of personal system to help you keep moving forward with your writing? No, I don't need one. Yes, there's always certain things I do. I have a system that works sometimes, perhaps, but it's a work in progress. I've never really thought about it. The people that ticked yes, there are always certain things that I do. In our large scale survey, these people overall were the most productive. They were better at coping with pressures. They were the most satisfied of our writers. They were the happiest. And also they were the least likely, the less likely to experience any barriers too. The people that said perhaps they had a system, but it's a work in progress, or that they've never really thought about it, these people experienced the greatest number of writing barriers. They were most likely to say that they suffered from psychological blocks and say that finishing was a problem. These psychological blocks we also found were the ones that made people feel the most dissatisfied. When they didn't have a system, they were the least likely to say they were satisfied and most likely to say they were dissatisfied, and they also produced the least in terms of volume and variety. And when we asked the same questions to the IOP authors, we had some similar responses. So these are direct quotes from the Qual research that came through. So these were IOPP respondents who said they had a system and who were also highly satisfied. So you can see here, whenever I have new scientific results, I stimulate myself to sum it up in a paper as soon as possible. This person tries not to be too much of a perfectionist on the first draft, which goes back to what we were saying before about draft zeros. I try to send it to colleagues, therefore getting that level of accountability, assumedly, early. This third one I thought was quite funny. They stop all work, talk to my boyfriend, cook and eat some good food, listen to mood elevating music with dim lights, and then go to sleep. But that is a system of sorts. That is how they continue to do their writing, to keep going. And the last one, again, going back to what Beck talked about in terms of the different techniques people use, they use the Pomodoro technique. Such an important, such a useful technique to get people, to get you off the starting blocks and to make sure you don't overly dwell in long periods of writing time. The respondents who said they didn't have a system or they weren't sure, and these also people were IOPP respondents with low satisfaction. They schedule times, but often emergencies crop up. So they're not protecting that time as best as they could. They always wait until the deadline is too close. This is something that writers often do. And then it gets very, very stressful because they are working right up to the deadline. And they said if there's no due date, the process lasts absolutely indefinitely. This other person here, they know what works, dedicated time away from distractions, but they don't have the strategies and that don't shortchange their family. And the final one, I'm not sure. I tried to adopt, although I did fail to deliver a couple of books because I couldn't make them work. So it's interesting to see that it was very similar in terms of the types of responses that we had, both in our larger scale study and in the short and the smaller scale study around this to IOP authors. So how do you find a system that works for you? And this is our editor process. I'm just going to skip through this, and you might want to come back to this at another time. So E is for experiment. As Beck said, just play around with different ideas, play around with different tactics, and try to find what works for you and what doesn't, and what doesn't, importantly. Don't remain wedded to any particular process, any particular technique that doesn't work. Just discard methods that don't work for you. And also remember that at different stages in your career, at different stages in your life, different methods will work and others won't. So try not to become wedded to any particular type. Just do what works at that point. Iterate, constantly kind of tweak the techniques that you use and improve them. And track, really important. Make sure you keep a note of what works for you and what doesn't work for you. Optimize, always keep improving on your process, and probably most importantly of all is reflect. One thing that we always ask writers to do is that at the end of the writing session, always think what worked well for you that time, what didn't go so well, and what would you change for next time. Just 3 simple things to take a note of after each writing session. It takes 1 minute, 30 seconds to do that, but reflecting on your process over time will really help you understand and help you build up a process that works for you. And really, this is what guides everything that we. This guides everything that we do, and all the services and coaching courses that we provide for people. And it's all about experimentation. It's about iteration and improvement of your process with these 3 elements: finding the time, keeping going, and learning and improving all the time.
So we've reached the end of the webinar, and I just want to say a huge thank you for everyone who's joined us live and who's watching this later. I'm just going to do a quick recap of what we've run through. And one thing, it's a bit of a reminder really, is that productivity is personal. It's great to be inspired by other writers. Do talk to writers in your life, to people in your institution, and find out what they do. But realise that there's no one system that works for everybody. So what you need to do is learn from them and build that into your own system for experimentation to figure out what's going to work. And remember that how you manage your time and the tactics you use for keeping going will change over time. You know, your life is changing all the time. Your academic career is changing all the time. The demands on you will be. So keep trying out different things, and don't feel, you know, really downhearted if something you used to do isn't working. Just try something else and you will figure out a new system. And in doing that, I mean, it's really clear from the research that having a system, which can be as simple as just one thing that you do to keep you writing, will reduce the stress you feel around it and improve your satisfaction and your productivity. So just figure out what works and keep going and using that to keep that system in place. And as we said, you know, be your own best editor. So do all the things that Chris just talked about to keep you experimenting and trying and moving forward with your writing. That's it from us today. I just want to say a huge thank you again for everyone who's joined us. I'm Beck, this is Chris. We are from Prolifico, and it's been a real delight to do this webinar on behalf of the IOP publishing team today. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, guys. Good to meet you.